What is up? It is the Figure Hunter, and we're going to talk about the brand new Coros Apex 4. The released today new feature watch or primary sort of core flagship watch for the Coros family of watches. We looked recently at the new release for the Coros Nomad, and we're going to talk about the Apex 4 on a multiple different levels. Now, I have to say at the outset, this is the 42 millimeter. I actually have the 46 millimeter coming, and I'm going to be able to do a side-by-side comparison between the two to show you sort of the size and feel differences, as well as I'm not completely done with the elaborate heart rate testing of the accuracy when doing especially dynamic weightlifting like Olympic weightlifting or hard rigorous weightlifting, as well as high intensity interval training. So those two reviews are still yet to come, although we are going to touch on heart rate accuracy in this review. But what we're going to talk about today, so we're going to talk about the sort of a hands-on and the new design and case and what the feature differences are. We're going to look at it sort of side by side with some of the differences between its now older generation Apex 2 Pro, or even the Apex 2 as a reference. We're going to look at it alongside some of its current models, the Coros watches. When you look at it alongside the Nomad and what it compares with there, as well as the Coros Pace Pro. And we're going to talk about things I liked when using the new Apex 4, things I thought were just okay, and things that I didn't like. We're going to discuss what else you could get for $480. This watch is being listed at $429 for the 42 millimeter, $479 for the 46 millimeter. What else could you buy for that basic amount of money in today's world? And then in summary, what I thought in general. So without further ado, we're going to look at it, and then we're going to look at it sort of side by side with the Apex 2 Pro. So here it is in all its glory, the new Coros Apex 4. You have a titanium bezel as well as polycarbonate back, and the back plate is actually a polycarbonate as well. You have a sapphire glass, so all the glass is well protected. You have the new sort of screen quality of the memory and pixel, has a slightly better resolution, which we will look at. This is the 42 millimeter, and it has a 1.2 inch screen, as well as the 46 millimeter, which we will look at a side by side when I get it, has a 1.3 inch screen. It is the same resolution in the series of watches with the Apex 2. Newer heart rate sensor, similar to what you saw on the Nomad. And we have the heart rate sensor analysis there on the Nomad, but we'll do a full comparison of the sensor here. So one of the new features is that this now includes a speaker and a microphone so that you can take calls. The speaker is a little bit quiet, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but basically you can do your voice memos like you could on the Nomad, your voice adventure memos when you're out in the wild, but on the Apex 4, you can now have a speaker, and it has different sounds and chimes and differences there. It's got a little bit longer battery life. And let's talk right now about the differences between this and its older generation Apex 2 Pro. Okay, so versus the Apex 2 Pro, you have the same touchscreen, the same sort of basic overall layout. It is going to be the same screen size if you were looking at the 46 millimeter versus the 42 millimeter I have here. You have all the same training aspects. So there are a lot of similarities. So let's talk about in general the similarities. They both have titanium bezels. The Apex 2 Pro has a titanium back, although it's not as necessary because you're not really putting the back to full test. They both have sapphire glass. They both have dual band GPS, actually, even though the Apex 2 Pro was listed a while ago. They both have blood oxygen sensor. They both have ECG checking capabilities. They both have a compass. So they both have a lot of the same sensor capabilities. What is difference between these two? Well, there's a slight weight difference, although it's really not anything you would feel. So like a 1 gram difference between most of the variants, 1 to 2 gram differences. But the battery life has gotten longer on the most highest aspect of GPS tracking. So the battery life on the Apex 4 now could go a maximum for the 46 millimeter of 41 hours in the max capacity, as well as the Apex 2 Pro could only go 24 hours. And if you look at just the day-to-day use, so that's a pretty significant difference in the actual max GPS mode. Day-to-day use, the Apex 2 Pro was 21 days. The Apex 4 now goes 24 days, about a 15% increase there. So not anything significant there. So another significant difference is if you were to look at the maps and we were to lay it out. If you were to look at the maps, now you have maps with street names on them. And it's a capability that only the new processor and the new memory can handle on the Apex 4. So you have street names and more clarity, as well as 30 times the speed at which you can sort of pan around and use the maps. So you can see that it dithers, it takes a lot more time. You can see that the Apex 4 basically is sort of instantaneous with what it can see on the screen. So the mapping is brand new, as well as you can see now, as I forgot to mention maybe in just the general overall, difference in the overall button layout. So now instead of having 3 buttons on one side, none on the other, you have a scroll wheel with a button on the top, as well as the back button here, and then the action button, which I really like for the feature set. So that's the difference between the Apex 2 Pro and the Apex 4. Now, if I was to summarize it, the Apex 4 has a mic and speaker, has more of their advanced maps, and has 30 times the map speed, and has a significantly longer GPS battery life with only mild differences in regular battery life. So that's the differences, and then you can see the design differences. I like the Apex 4 much better on the design features. So now versus the Nomad. So the Nomad actually has got the 1.3 inch same screen you would have on the Apex 4 46 millimeter. So you're gonna see a very similar difference. You have the polycarbonate, or I guess it's called the fiber reinforced polymer case around the edges versus the versus the titanium bezel. But you do have a raised case, so it actually is pretty robust. You have mineral glass on the Nomad versus the sapphire glass, but you do have that raised edge, which kind of keeps it from getting battered. You have similar battery life. So in the max GPS on the Apex 4, you're gonna get 41 hours of max GPS and 34 hours on the Nomad, although both of those are pretty significant. And you're gonna get 22 days of battery life on the Nomad versus 24 standard days on the Apex 4. But you're gonna save $100 on the Nomad. So it's $350 versus $479, or whichever variant you get on the 22 versus 26. So you can see sort of the overall differences. Oh, and of course, you're not going to have a speaker on the Nomad, not anything more than just a beep. So the Nomad will not be able to take calls, although you do have the microphone system to leave your notes along your routes in your adventure journal. You have a difference in size. The Apex 4 will have this 46 millimeter band, which is a new standard. It is not normal. So you see the Apex 4 42 millimeter has the 22 millimeter band now, and the 24 millimeter will be what comes on the 26 millimeter Apex 4. So that's the Nomad differences, $100 in difference, and that's what you get feature-wise, design-wise. Obviously, the 46 millimeter would be more competitive versus Nomad. We'll look at that when I get it in. And then if you were to compare it, if you were to compare it side by side with the Pace, obviously, the Pace Pro has got the AMOLED screen, so you're going to see this brilliant screen. It does have the 1.3 inch, and this is the 1.2 because it's the 42 millimeter. But you can see, the overall experience differences of the AMOLED on the Pace Pro. The Pace Pro costs $350. So this is what the visual differences would be if you were to compare it with the Pace Pro. The Pace Pro obviously has a plastic casing, that same fiber reinforced polymer, but it feels more definitively like a plastic watch because it is a little bit lighter, a little bit less robust than the Nomad, and you just have the one back button and the scrolling wheel with the button press on it versus the Apex 4. But that's the differences there for the $100 of cost difference with the Apex 4 versus the Pace Pro. The only other thing to mention is that the Pace Pro will not have the street names because it has a smaller processor. I don't know if that's getting upgraded. I don't think it is. So you're just going to have the traditional sort of zoom in to see the lay of the land, but without being able to see the street names and trailheads. Okay, so let's talk about the things I like. Okay, so let's talk about the things we like. When it comes to the Apex 4, I like the design so much more than just the smooth rounded edges of the Apex 2 Pro. The Apex 4 just has these little ridges to it. It's got a sharp look. I love the color of the metal. I love the overall sort of weight and feel to it. I do love this band, and we'll talk about one thing with the band, but I love the overall features. I love that when you're in an activity, so if you were in the walk activity and you were starting it, yes, you're just gonna go. We could obviously bounce back and forth between the map and your activity scroll page, which I just think that is the coolest thing. I said that about the Nomad. I think that is the most useful use of mapping, just to be able to pop in and pop out. Still wanting to find, oh, hey, look. But to be able to pop in and pop out, I think makes a huge difference in the functionality. But I think the fact that they put the scroll wheel over here and the overall button configuration, I think, is a better layout than having the one large scroll wheel on the left side. I think it's just got a sleek feel to it all around. The other things that I really like are in the app, so let's take a look there. Okay, so when I look at the app, I really like the training functionality. So I think it's got a well laid out for the most part, but I like the training functionality. So specifically when it goes to workout analysis, I like how it's laid out, but I like that it gives you this workout analysis. It does this on the watch, you just see it better on the app. With the training effect, the aerobic training effect and the anaerobic, the impact to your different sides of your fitness training effect, as well as on the watch. You would get recovery time, how many days from that hard workout you should take until the next hard workout. I love the overall layout. I love the fact that you can see your training load. That is good, the workout analysis. And then when it comes into the training status or the training evaluation, I like that it shows your fitness over time, and it shows if you are increasing, decreasing, optimized, excessive, that type of thing. So it gives you sort of a load title, but you can see a lot. So you can, dive in at any point and see your overall base fitness as it's improving over time based on your current training relative to your past training. And there's the training recovery, so you can see how recovered you are right there on the app. One other minor thing that I like about what Coros does is if I start an activity in the watch, it'll automatically link it to, oops, sorry about that. It'll automatically link it to here. So it looks like, boom, it's like tied in right there. I think that's awesome. Everybody should do that. So you can see, like, that's where I am. It's like it's got me. You can see your activity in the app in real time, which is not something everybody else does. So those are the things I like. Let's talk about the things that I don't like, let me back up. Let me talk about the things that I think are just okay with Coros. I'm gonna start with the wellness. Since I'm in the app right now, I do think that the wellness is lacking. So you can see it's got the overnight HRV, sleep, and your resting heart rate. I like that you can sort of right there in summary see the overnight HRV. I like that you can see your resting heart rate. Those two are kind of what I would track for my overall recovered or non-recovered sort of evaluation. But everybody does that, and almost everybody is taking multiple metrics and culminating them into a primary recommendation. This might even be something that I just don't like about Coros, or feel like they are more felt in how they are lagging behind the competition, is in the depth of their wellness metrics and how they take multiple data points and culminate it into a recommendation for where you're at that point in time. So I feel like that is a soft spot or weak spot relative to the rest of the industry. Okay, so the other thing I think that needs to be watched in a more full analysis is the heart rate sensor. So I've had mixed, it's been okay when it comes to heart rate sensors. So here was a low-level cardio, monostructural cardio, but with wrist flex in it as I was doing ski erg, assault bike, and rowing. But then here's a monostructural workout where I was doing rowing and assault bike, and it had erroneous parts to it. When I got into lifting, here was a lifting session with very dynamic Olympic lifting with some step-ups at the end. It actually did fairly well. That's actually really good for a lifting session. Now, this is the 42 millimeters, so we got to test the 46, and we got to add all that data together. But then here's another lifting session where it missed a lot of the high points. And you can see it caught the dynamic stuff towards the back half as I did some extra exercise. So the lifting was good at times and had failure at other times. So here's a CrossFit workout where it missed the intense portions. So we got to see how that works. Here's a CrossFit workout where it kind of got the intense portions. It only did some of the lifting portions. So again, and then, higher intensity, this is just step ups because I've been training for the Chad workout. Here's another CrossFit workout where it totally missed the boat. So this would probably be in some ways categorized as bad. If you look between these workouts, this would be considered bad, but in the optical sensor world, and even compared to the Nomad recently, this is better than what I was getting in the Nomad testing, and this is better than some of the optical heart rate sensor that I've tested, although you still just want to connect to a chest strap or to the Coros' own armband because it's not a reliable metric. I just felt like, it's okay. It's not as bad as I've seen. Okay, and then what things did I not like about the Apex 4 release? I would say the primary thing is the minimal improvements and the lack of improvement to the screen quality. So when I look back at the Apex 2 Pro, I just think it is better, but it's not significantly better. It's minor improvement. The brightness, I would say, is about the same, maybe 10% brighter, and the quality is the colors are richer, so it's nicer there, but it's a minor improvement over the Apex 2 Pro. And the bigger thing is when I look at the Apex 4 in today's world, fine, you don't have to have an AMOLED watch. They chose not to go AMOLED, but in a world full of bright AMOLED watches that getting multiple days of battery life, for your memory and pixel to only be slightly better than a generation a long time ago, and even this memory and pixel is weaker and much more dim than some of the other memory pixels on that market, like the Suunto Vertical, considerably brighter, considerably clear. The Garmin Fenix 8 Solar, considerably brighter, considerably clearer. The Instinct 3, considerably, now it's a monochromatic, but it's considerably brighter and considerably clearer. That to me is a real failure because the industry is shifting towards better quality screens. The other improvements, I think, again, are just, that's the thing that I don't like. It's just sort of minor improvements. There's no real innovation. So the mic and the speaker is great, but I wouldn't say that's a significant improvement. The battery life, not significant. So we'll talk about more of that in the summary. So what do I think you could get? What else could you get for $480 if you wanted to spend it? Obviously, there's the Suunto Race 2. Suunto Race 2 came out recently. It's $500. It is a different animal because it does have an AMOLED screen, but it's a 1.5-inch screen versus a 1.3-inch screen, and it's AMOLED, and it's 7 days in my testing of always on display, and more like 10 or 12 days if you're not using always on display. And the mapping is similar because it was a faster response rate, although you didn't have street names. So fine, there's the differences there. I would say that Suunto has better elaborate wellness and general wellness guidance and about the same level of training guidance. So similar there, but just better in other ways. And then you have the Garmin Instinct 3. Maybe that's different. Yes, there's no mapping in the Garmin Instinct 3 Solar. But on the flip side, it's got a brighter screen, it's clearer screen, even though it's monochromatic, and it has relatively unlimited battery life, so you're not going to ever run out of battery life, and it has a flashlight, which is a big thing, which is a thing. And then you have the series of watches like the Instinct 3 AMOLED, which would have that whole sort of comparison, same price as the Suunto Race 2, which wouldn't have maps, but still has that bright screen. And then you have the real competition, I think, for the Coros Apex 4, and that's its own devices. I think if I look at it, if I was going to spend money, I would want to spend money on the Nomad because the Nomad is $100 cheaper. And so I'd have savings, and it has the same awesome mapping. It just has a different casing. So yes, you don't have the sort of sleek, sort of professional casing as the Nomad. You have the more robust casing, and you don't have the titanium bezel or sapphire glass, but you do have the same mapping. Your battery life's similar and the number of days, and somewhat similar in the max GPS mode, but it's the same screen quality, the same screen resolution, and $150 cheaper. And if you look at it relative to their, I mean, you know, again, you just sort of see the map there, and it's just sort of like, wow, that's a bright screen relative to the Pace Pro. The Pace Pro is also its competitor. So if you were to look at the Pace Pro and just its experience with the AMOLED relative to the memory and pixel, now it's a different thing, but it's $350 versus $450. I would be inclined to go with the Nomad or the Pace Pro. So that's the differences for what you could get, and that's the Apex 4. And what do I think in summary, if I just was to briefly summarize it all? Let's go back in time. The Apex 2 Pro was released November 3rd of 2022, if the search I did was correct. But that's basically 3 years ago. So in 3 years since, what did they add? They added the mic and speaker, a little bit faster maps, the more advanced maps with street names, some battery life improvement, although it's not that significant. I mean, there's 21 days on the Apex 2 Pro battery life for just all day regular watch use. Some minor screen clarity and minor screen visibility, although not much. And so in 3 years, it is a cool case. It's got a cool design. It's a good looking watch. I just think there should be more significant improvement to their flagship, all around sleek but endurance outdoorsy watch in their lineup. And I personally think they should have had an AMOLED variant for the world that's shifting around AMOLED desires within a sleek design. Then I think they would be competitive. One of each. Maybe make the Apex 4 memory and pixel 449 and then the AMOLED 499. But either way, I feel like the Apex 4 is a lackluster release in that 3-year given time and the market competitive around it. So that's my feelings, that's my thoughts. I'm gonna have a couple other reviews coming out when looking at the 42mm versus 46mm side by side. A more in-depth, complete and total analysis of the heart rate accuracy when doing high intensity interval training or CrossFit, as well as dynamic weightlifting, Olympic lifting, as well as all the monostructural workouts you could ever want. It's the Figure Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.